Welcome back, O seekers of the strange, to Unveiling the Unusual. I'm your host, Elowen Cross. In this episode, we set sail into the cold, unforgiving waters of Alaska, to a remote fjord where nature revealed its most violent secret. This is Case 2, the Mega-Tsunami of Lituya Bay. It's July 9th, 1958, Lituya Bay, Alaska. A place of serene beauty, framed by jagged cliffs and towering glaciers. But beneath that beauty lurks unimaginable power. At 10:15 p.m, the earth trembled. A huge, magnitude 7.8 earthquake shook the Fairweather Fault, sending shockwaves rippling through the fjord. But the quake was just the beginning. On the slopes above the bay, 90 million tons of rock sheared off a cliff, plummeting into the narrow inlet with cataclysmic force. The impact displaced an unfathomable volume of water, unleashing a mega-tsunami unlike anything witnessed in human history. But just how high was this wave? At the highest point, 1,720 feet. That's 524 metres, more than half a kilometre tall, higher than the Empire State Building. A wall of water that stripped the land bare, scouring trees, soil, and everything in its path, leaving behind a stark, lifeless scar etched into the landscape. But this isn't just a tale of raw natural power, it's also a story of survival and mystery. There were witnesses. 3 fishing boats anchored in the bay that night. One was crewed by Howard Ulrich and his 7-year-old son, who experienced the impossible and lived to tell the tale. Howard recalled the eerie calm that preceded the event.
The bay's surface was like glass, unnervingly still under the dim twilight.
Suddenly, the tranquility shattered with a deep, rumbling roar, growing louder by the second. Howard noticed a strange, rapid rise in the water level around his boat, a powerful current surging from the head of the bay, pulling against the tide. He described a strange sensation, a gut-deep realization that something was terribly wrong. His instincts screamed that this was no ordinary wave. Howard looked toward the mountains and saw what appeared to be a giant wall of water, illuminated faintly in the dusk, a towering mass racing toward them at terrifying speed.
It didn't look like a wave. It looked like the whole side of the mountain was moving towards us.
There was no time to react. The wave lifted their boat high above the treetops, flinging it with incredible force. Howard and his son held on tightly as the vessel was tossed like a cork in a storm, caught in a maelstrom of debris and roaring water. Despite the chaos, they survived, battered but alive, their boat miraculously staying afloat as the mega-tsunami roared past. Another boat wasn't so lucky. The fishing boat Sunmore was owned and crewed by a young couple from Juneau. As they raced to sail out of the bay, the boat was taken by the wave and eyewitnesses describe it heading towards cliffs. Sadly, the unfortunate couple were lost to the unforgiving depths. But here's where the story deepens. How could such an incomprehensible wave form in such an isolated bay? Tsunamis are typically triggered by undersea earthquakes, not landslides. Scientists, stunned by the sheer scale of the Lituya event, began to investigate. And their findings were as fascinating as they were unsettling. this wasn't the first mega-tsunami in Lituya Bay. Geological evidence suggests that similar waves had swept through the bay in 1854, 1936, and even centuries before. The geography of the bay, its steep slopes, deep waters, and glacial history creates a perfect deadly recipe for such events. A narrow inlet channels energy with devastating efficiency, amplifying the impact of any disturbance. But is there more to it? Some locals spoke of ancient Tlingit legends, stories passed down through generations warning of the bay's wrath, tales of spirits residing within the fjord, angered when humans trespass too deeply. Could these myths be rooted in historical memory? Perhaps ancient accounts of waves that devoured entire landscapes? Then there's the question of timing. The exact sequence of the earthquake triggering a rockfall, leading to such an unprecedented wave, feels, to some, almost orchestrated in its precision. Is it merely coincidence? Or does Lituya Bay exist on a fault line, not just geological, but something more enigmatic? Of course, the scientific explanation holds. The mechanics are clear: seismic activity, landslide, water displacement. But for those who stood in the shadow of that wave, who saw a mountain collapse and the sea rise to swallow the sky, the facts do little to dampen the awe and terror etched into their memories. So, what do you believe? Is Lituya Bay merely a geological anomaly, or does something deeper stir beneath its cold waters? A force ancient and indifferent, waiting for the next fragile tremor to awaken it. And what about the future? Could it happen again? Geologists believe that another mega-tsunami in Lituya Bay is not a matter of if, but when. The bay's steep, unstable cliffs and its position along the active Fairweather Fault make it highly susceptible to future landslides and seismic events. While predicting the exact timing of such a catastrophe is impossible, the conditions that led to the 1958 wave are still very much present today. Ongoing monitoring of the region's geological activity helps scientists track potential risks, but the raw, unpredictable power of nature remains a force beyond full human control. Join me next time on Unveiling the Unusual as we peel back the layers of another mystery lurking just beyond the veil. Until then, keep your eyes open, your mind sharp, and remember, the unusual is often hiding in plain sight.